The storm on the horizon, economic pressure is building from every direction. Debt, inflation, layoffs, shrinking paychecks, rising costs. The same pattern preceded 2008, the dot-com collapse, the Great Depression. You felt it already. The grocery cart that costs more, but holds less. The paycheck stretched thinner each month. The credit card balance that refuses to shrink. This isn't coincidence. It's a pattern. And 2026 is where it leads. This isn't about panic. It's about understanding what's happening so you can prepare. Here's what we know. Household debt in America just hit a record-breaking $18.59 trillion, the highest ever recorded. People aren't drowning in debt because they're being irresponsible. They're drowning because the math simply doesn't work anymore. Food prices are outpacing inflation. Utility bills are climbing faster than wages. And the job market is shifting beneath our feet. In 2025, American employers announced over 1.1 million layoffs, the highest since the pandemic. This isn't a recession. Not yet. Economists are calling it a growth recession. A period where the economy technically grows, but ordinary people feel like they're falling behind because they are. The warning signs aren't just domestic. In May 2025, Moody's did something it hadn't done since it first rated American debt over a century ago. It downgraded the United States credit rating. For the first time in history, all three major credit agencies have now stripped America of its top-tier rating. The message is clear. Even the institutions that measure financial stability are sounding the alarm. What does all of this mean for you? It means 2026 isn't just another year. It's a pressure point. It's the moment when the delayed impacts of years of economic strain converge on working families, on retirees, on anyone living paycheck to paycheck. But understanding the problem is the first step toward protecting yourself. The debt trap. Let's talk about the elephant in the room that nobody wants to acknowledge. America is buried under a mountain of IOUs, not just the government, although that's its own disaster. We're talking about everyday people. Families, individuals, your neighbors, maybe you. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York's numbers are staggering. Total household debt has climbed to $18.59 trillion. That's trillion with a T. Mortgages, auto loans, student debt, credit cards, all of it piling higher than ever before in recorded history. But here's where it gets personal. The average American household now carries over $9,000 in credit card balances. And they're paying roughly 20% interest on that debt. 20%. That means if you're only making minimum payments on the average balance, you're looking at over 18 years to pay it off, and more than $9,000 in interest charges alone. You'd essentially pay for your debt twice. And here's the part that keeps economists up at night. Delinquency rates are climbing fast. The share of people falling behind on credit card payments has risen dramatically since 2021. In the lowest income zip codes, over 20% of credit card debt is now 90 days or more past due. Today, people have jobs. They're just not earning enough to keep up. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis calls it a broad, continuing rise in delinquent debt. Translation: this isn't a blip, it's a trend, and it's accelerating. What makes this particularly dangerous is something economists call the K-shaped divide. Picture the letter K. One arm goes up, one arm goes down. That's the American economy right now. Wealthier households with stock portfolios and home equity are doing fine, even thriving. But working class and middle class families are sliding backward, taking on more debt just to maintain the lifestyle they had 5 years ago. The gap is widening. When that gap gets too wide, something breaks. Credit card companies aren't charities. When delinquencies rise, they tighten lending standards. They reduce credit limits, increase interest rates for everyone to offset their losses. That means the people who've been responsible, who've paid on time, end up subsidizing the risk. The debt trap doesn't just catch the people who fall in, it raises the walls for everyone else. This is the foundation of what's coming in 2026. Because when households are already stretched to their limits, when there's no cushion left, even a small economic shock can trigger a cascade. A job loss, a medical emergency, a rent increase, and as we're about to see, those shocks are already lining up. The rising cost of everything. Walk into any grocery store today and try a simple experiment. Buy the same items you bought 2 years ago, same brands, same quantities, same shopping list. Then compare the receipts. you already know what you'll find. The United States Department of Agriculture tracks food prices with scientific precision. Their latest data shows food costs rose over 3% in the past year. It might sound modest until you realize wages aren't keeping pace. Until you look at specific items that families actually buy. Beef and veal prices surged nearly 15%. Orange juice climbed over 26%. Eggs have been on a roller coaster, spiking as much as 40% at certain points due to avian flu outbreaks devastating poultry farms across the country. These aren't luxury items. This is breakfast. This is dinner for your kids. This is the protein your body needs to function. And the forecasts aren't promising relief. The USDA projects food prices will continue rising through 2026. Not dramatically, but steadily. Persistently. It's a kind of increase that doesn't make headlines, but slowly drains your bank account week after week. Then there's shrinkflation, the quiet trick manufacturers hope you won't notice. That bag of chips that used to be 16 ounces is now 14. That box of cereal that filled your pantry shelf now leaves a gap. The price stays the same, sometimes even increases. But you're getting less product. It's a hidden price hike disguised as identical packaging. Consumer advocates have documented hundreds of examples. Toilet paper with fewer sheets. Candy bars that fit a little easier in your palm. Yogurt containers that shrank just enough to escape casual observation. Companies are betting you won't do the math, and mostly they're right. But your budget notices, your monthly grocery spending notices, your family's nutrition notices. Now let's step outside the kitchen and look at your mailbox. Specifically, your utility bills. The Energy Information Administration, the government agency that tracks these things, released projections that should concern every American household. Residential electricity prices are forecast to rise 13% to 18% by the end of 2026. Electricity costs are expected to outpace overall inflation by as much as 29%. Why? Multiple factors are converging at once. Aging power infrastructure desperately needs upgrades, and utilities are passing those costs to consumers. Natural gas prices are climbing due to increased exports and flat domestic production. And electricity demand is surging, driven largely by data centers powering artificial intelligence systems that companies are racing to build. The cruel irony is that the same AI technology eliminating jobs is also driving up the electric bills of the workers it displaced. For families in northern climates, winter heating costs add another layer of pressure. For those in southern states, summer cooling bills are becoming genuinely dangerous for elderly residents on fixed incomes who can't afford to run air conditioning. The math is brutally simple. When food costs more, when electricity costs more, when every basic necessity inches upward while paychecks stay flat, something has to give. People cut back on savings. They skip preventive health care. They defer car repairs until something breaks completely. They survive today by borrowing from tomorrow. Tomorrow's almost here. The job market crunch, there's a number that should be on every American's radar right now. 1.17 million. That's how many job cuts American employers announced through November 2025. The highest since 2020 when the pandemic brought the economy to its knees. Except this time, there's no virus to blame. There's no lockdowns and emergency shutdowns. This is something different, something structural. And it's accelerating. The outplacement firm Challenger, Gray and Christmas tracks layoff announcements across every sector of the economy. Their data paints a troubling picture. Technology companies slashed over 153,000 positions, a 17% jump from the previous year. Retail eliminated nearly 92,000 jobs as consumers pulled back spending. Warehousing saw layoffs explode by 378% as e-commerce demand cooled and automation replaced human workers. Even telecommunications, once considered stable employment, announced over 38,000 cuts, 268% increase from the year before. These aren't just statistics. These are families suddenly scrambling to make rent. These are professionals in their 40s and 50s wondering if they'll ever find comparable work again. These are young people entering a job market that seems to have fewer chairs every time the music stops. And then there's the factor everyone's talking about, but few want to confront honestly. Artificial intelligence. Over 54,000 job cuts in 2025 were explicitly attributed to AI implementation and automation. Companies aren't hiding it anymore. They're announcing layoffs in the same breath as AI investments. Amazon cut 14,000 corporate positions while expanding its AI capabilities. Tech firms across Silicon Valley are replacing entire departments with algorithms that don't need health insurance, don't take vacations, and never ask for raises. The education technology company Chegg laid off 45% of its workforce after AI tools decimated demand for its services. The irony is almost poetic. A company built to help students learn was gutted by technology that learns faster than any student ever could. But here's what the headlines miss. For every person laid off, there's a ripple effect on those who remain employed. Survivors of corporate downsizing don't celebrate. They absorb the workload of their departed colleagues. They work longer hours for the same pay. They live in constant fear that the next round of cuts will include their name. Burnout is epidemic. Engagement is plummeting. Workers are showing up physically but checking out mentally because loyalty feels like a one-way street. Meanwhile, seasonal hiring tells its own story. Retailers typically ramp up staffing for the holiday shopping season. In 2025, companies plan to hire between 265,000 and 365,000 seasonal workers. That sounds reasonable until you compare it to the 442,000 seasonal positions filled the previous year. It's the weakest holiday hiring in 15 years. Employers are signaling something with these decisions. They're anticipating leaner times ahead. They're preparing for consumers who spend less, demand less, and require fewer workers to serve them. The job market isn't collapsing, but it's quietly contracting. Opportunities are shrinking. Competition for remaining positions is intensifying. And the workers who feel most secure today may find themselves most blindsided tomorrow. Because in this economy, no one is irreplaceable. The machines are making sure of that. The global picture, everything we've discussed so far, has focused on what's happening inside American borders. But the economy doesn't operate in a vacuum. What happens across oceans eventually washes up on our shores. And right now, the global picture is deeply troubling. Start with supply chains, the invisible networks that move products from factories to store shelves. Since the pandemic, these systems have never fully recovered. They've simply adapted to a new normal of constant disruption. The Red Sea, one of the world's most critical shipping corridors, has become a geopolitical fault line. Vessels that once crossed in days now sail for weeks around the Cape of Good Hope to avoid conflict zones. Security premiums and insurance surcharges are climbing. Shipping costs rose 12% in 2025. Every additional dollar spent moving goods eventually lands on the price tag you see at checkout. The Panama Canal, that engineering marvel connecting to oceans, is operating under severe restrictions. Persistent drought has lowered water levels so dramatically that transit limits may continue into late 2026. Ships are waiting longer, carrying less cargo, and charging more for the privilege. Climate disruptions aren't seasonal anomalies anymore. They're structural challenges baked into how global trade operates. Then there's the food supply, and here the numbers become genuinely alarming. The World Food Program released its 2026 Global Outlook with a stark warning. An estimated 318 million people worldwide face acute hunger, more than double pre-pandemic levels. 41 million are at emergency levels or worse. The first time this century, famine has been confirmed in 2 countries simultaneously, parts of Gaza and Sudan. America won't face famine. Let's be clear about that. But global food insecurity creates pressure waves that affect everyone. When harvests fail in major producing regions, when droughts devastate crops from wheat to rice to dairy, when farmers worldwide report higher input costs and lower yields, those disruptions flow through international markets and into American grocery stores, not isolated from the world. We're connected to it in ways most people never see until something breaks. Something significant did break in May 2025. Moody's Ratings, the agency that had maintained America's top credit rating since 1917, made an announcement that sent shockwaves through financial markets. For the first time ever, they downgraded United States sovereign debt. The rating dropped from AAA to AA1, one notch below perfection. This wasn't symbolic, it was a verdict. Moody's cited federal debt projected to reach 134% of GDP by 2035. They pointed to year-end annual deficits approaching 9% of GDP. They noted that interest payments on existing debt had already surpassed defense spending. America is now paying more to service past borrowing than to fund its military. Standard & Poor's downgraded the United States back in 2011. Fitch followed in 2023. Now Moody's has joined them. All three major credit agencies agree on something they've never agreed on before. The full faith and credit of the United States is no longer considered risk-free. What does this mean for ordinary Americans? Higher borrowing costs across the board, mortgage rates influenced by Treasury yields, credit card interest tied to federal benchmarks, auto loans, student loans, business loans, all incrementally more expensive. The world is watching America's fiscal trajectory. Increasingly, they're hedging their bets. What you can do now, if you've made it this far, you might be feeling overwhelmed, maybe even a little hopeless. Don't be. Because here's the truth that separates those who struggle from those who survive. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control government policy. You cannot control what corporations decide or what happens on the other side of the world. But you can control your own household. And that control is more powerful than you realize. Let's talk about what actually works. First, build a buffer. Financial experts call it an emergency fund, but let's be practical. Start with whatever you can manage. $50, $100. It goes in perfection. The goal is creating space between you and disaster. When the unexpected happens, and it will, that buffer is the difference between a setback and a catastrophe. Even small amounts matter. A few $100s can cover a car repair that would otherwise go on a credit card at 20% interest. That's not just savings. That's breaking the cycle before it starts. Set a target. 1 month of essential expenses is a good starting point. Then build toward 3 months. Don't get discouraged by how far away that feels. Every dollar you set aside is a dollar standing between your family and financial freefall. It can take inventory of what you have. Open every cabinet. Check your freezer. Look in the back of your pantry where things get forgotten. Most households are sitting on food they've overlooked, sometimes weeks' worth of meals hiding in plain sight. Knowing what you have prevents duplicate purchases and helps you build from a position of awareness rather than panic. Make a simple list. Update it weekly. This small habit pays dividends when prices spike or supply chains hiccup. Third, start building a 90-day essentials supply, not a bunker full of freeze-dried meals, just a thoughtful collection of what your family actually eats. Start with proteins, canned meats, beans, peanut butter, anything shelf-stable with nutritional density. Then add carbohydrates like rice, pasta, and oats. Include cooking essentials such as oil, flour, salt, and basic spices. Don't forget medications, hygiene products, and pet food if applicable. This isn't about preparing for apocalypse. It's about insulating yourself from price spikes and temporary shortages. When grocery prices jump 10% overnight, your pantry becomes a shield. When a winter storm keeps you home for a week, you're not scrambling. When a job loss hits, you buy yourself time to recover without watching your family go hungry. Fourth, adopt the $20 weekly strategy. Set aside $20 each week specifically for building your reserves. It's less than $3 a day. The cost of a fancy coffee you probably don't need anyway. Over a month, that's $80 of preparation. Over 3 months, nearly $250 of security. Over a year, more than $1,000 invested in your family's resilience. Small, consistent action beats dramatic gestures every time. The tortoise wins this race. Fifth, reduce your exposure to variable expenses. Look at subscriptions you've forgotten about. Examine your utility usage for waste. Consider whether premium brands are genuinely better or just better marketed. Cancel what you don't use. Negotiate what you can. Switch providers if loyalty isn't being rewarded. Every dollar you redirect from mindless spending to intentional saving strengthens your position. Money saved is money that can't be inflated away. Sixth, and this one's difficult, have honest conversations with your family. Talk about priorities. Discuss what you'd cut first if income dropped. Make these decisions calmly before crisis forces them upon you. Families who communicate about money weather storms better than those who avoid the topic until it's too late. Include older children in age-appropriate discussions. Unity comes from shared understanding, not from secrets and surprises. Finally, protect your peace of mind. Preparation isn't about fear, it's about replacing anxiety with action. Every step you take, no matter how small, shifts you from feeling powerless to feeling capable. That psychological shift matters more than most people understand. Worry without action is just suffering twice. Action transforms worry into purpose. 2026 is coming regardless of what any of us do. The economic pressures we've discussed are real. Convergence of debt, inflation, job insecurity, and global instability isn't speculation. It's documented. It's measured. It's happening. But pressure doesn't have to mean collapse. Not for you, not for your family. The people who come through difficult times aren't always the wealthiest or the luckiest. They're the ones who saw clearly, prepared wisely, and refused to let circumstances dictate their fate. Start today. Start small, but start.